Hello everybody, I hope this day is finding you well. We're gonna get right into it, right? So this is my explanation of the movie Coraline. The story, the movie Coraline. This is not a theory, this is an assumption or an I think. I know for a fact I understand the movie Coraline now, and I know at the end of the movie, Coraline does escape the other world, and I can explain this factually. Given the, everything going on in the movie, I can explain this, okay? So, when it comes to this movie is very deep and complicated. If you're into the theories and things like that, you already know how complicated and crazy that this movie gets, okay? So, to begin, I'm gonna mention a couple of markers of how we know Coraline is either in or out of the movie, out of the other world. I'm gonna explain them a bit, and then I'm gonna explain those elements or markers within the story so that we get a clear picture and finally understand the movie of Coraline, right? And yes, I'm smoking, don't judge me, you feel me? Okay, so hear me out, right? The three markers that indicate Coraline is either in or outside of the real world. 1. Clouds. 2. The children. And 3. The cat. Alright, so we're going to explain a little bit of those things, and then we're going to explain the themes of the movie, and then we're going to explain the actual movie itself, alright? So bear with me. Okay, so, clouds. Clouds is an indicator of whether or not Coraline is in or outside of the real world. Why is that the case? And how does that make sense, okay? And what proof do we have of this? Now, in the real world, we have clouds in the sky because the clouds make rain, right? And that's part of our natural life that we go through. The other world is specifically designed around the person that the other mother's trying to trap, in this case Coraline, and what entices and attracts Coraline. Things that would make her feel, that she's in a place of wonder, magic, and that she'll love it, right? So everything about the other world is catered to Coraline. When it comes to clouds, there are absolutely zero clouds present in the other world. Now, why is that the case? The reason why there are no clouds in the other world is because clouds exist in the sky. Yeah, I know, right? However, the thing about that is Coraline lives on the ground. So she's never in the sky, so there's no reason for her to be checking out the sky exactly, right? The only thing that's there is the moon and stars, and that's to give her the illusion of the night. She's never up in the sky, so she would never have to encounter clouds. So clouds aren't necessary at all when it comes to the other world. And what's more, the only other time that Coraline was in the air was when she was in the garden with the other father on the praying mantis when it turned into a helicopter. They were up in the air, but there were no clouds, and then there needed to not be any clouds in order for Coraline to be able to visually see the garden, right? To see that it's a picture of her and it's art and it's beautiful. That's why there was no clouds. So, looking through the movie, you'll notice that there's clouds everywhere in the real world, but there's no clouds or anything of the sort in the other world. And there's also the hint at the end where there's a bunch of different things. There's spirals going on when she goes into the other world in the clouds. Then there's at the end where it shows the hands in front of the moon. The clouds are in the shape of the hands, and it shows the moon opening up. These are things that indicate and let us know Coraline is either in or outside of the real world. The real world has clouds, the fake world does not. It's absent of clouds, okay? Number 2, the ghost children. Now, when it comes to the ghost children, I guess you have to pay a little bit more attention to them, right? So there's something special about them. One of the ghost children are connected to a real life person, which is Wybie's grandmother. So when it comes to one of the ghost children, we at least know that the ghost children technically has like a real life counterpart, which does exist. So this isn't something that is just locked within the other world. There is something to let us know that this person does exist, and there's someone related to them on the outside. So through that connection, we can understand Is the ghost a fake, or is Wybie's grandma made up? No, they're real, actual people that have existed. One's dead and one's alive, but they are in fact real. And when it comes to the other world, the ghost children are ghosts. Okay, they're not outright souls. Okay, when they're slaves, they're white and pale. But when they leave the other world and they're free in the real world, okay, they're golden, and now they're of spirit. And that's indicated with a spiral on the chest of the grandmother, the dead grandmother's sister, her sister. She has a spiral on her chest along with the golden colors and things like that. Along with that, you see the background is the mural of Van Gogh, I believe it is, the Starry Night that has the clouds present. So these things let us know whether or not Coraline is in or outside of the real world. The child is no longer a ghost, but of spirit. They have their eyes, they're golden, they have a spiral, and there's clouds. Okay, now number 3, the cat. This is the most special one, right? Okay, so when it comes to the cat, when it comes to this cat, there is nothing about this cat that indicates he's a natural cat, right? Nothing in the story implies or mentions anything about him existing in that world, coming from that world, or being a natural born cat from that world. When he shows up, he's just present. He just exists there, and he's happened to have been helping Wybie, right? However, when it comes to this cat, everything about this cat is opposite of what is implied about him. He's supposed to be an outside wild cat, right? However, he's always with Wybie. He bonds with Wybie. He's bringing Wybie dead things, and Wybie even carries him on his shoulder, and he's fine with Wybie being, that he's standing on top of Wybie. He doesn't mind being that close with him. In fact, he's so out of character for a wild cat that Coraline calls him a wuss puss. Because he's not acting like a wild cat. Everything that he's doing is acting like a cat that's not supposed to be out there. A cat not made for, a soft cat. A cat like an indoor cat. And then when it comes to the cat and how he behaves, when he exists in the other world, right? He moves around perfectly fine and perfectly able. Exactly like he's at home. Just exactly like a regular cat would in their own domain and house. When it's their territory, they excuse me, they move around without any problem or issue. That's how the cat moves in that world. And then to top it off, when he's in that world and Coraline speaks to him, she says the other Wybie can't talk, and she mentions you must be the other cat or something like that. She mentions that he must be the other cat, and she has a cat like him at home. He specifically says, no, I'm not the other anything. I'm me. So he's not a clone. He's not a copy. And as far as things go, he doesn't have another copy or clone. He's an original and a one and only. And he comes from that place. Because he is right at home. Because Coraline specifically also mentions, other cats don't, cats don't talk back home. No? And he goes, no, they don't? Well, you seem to be the expert here. That's the key word. Cats don't talk back home. Because he isn't from back where she's from. Where she's at in the other world, talking to him is his home. And that's how come he can move around and do what he does, and including speak. Because keep in mind, he's an animal and he's speaking. Any other animal that does speak comes from that world. The animals that can't speak, which is the jumping mice and the dogs, they can't speak like a regular person like the cat can. Those two animals are from the real world that the other mother had been manipulating and using. But they don't talk, yet the cat can, and then the stuffed animals can, and then the animals that the other mother made can. Like when Coraline enters the garden, there's like three, I believe, is hummingbirds. They float around her. They go, "Hello, Coraline. Hello, 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 hello." And then when she goes into her room, the toys that are animals start talking to her. Excuse me. So everything about this cat, it tells us that he's not a normal actual cat from the outside. He's a cat from inside the other world. And just with that same brushstroke, that all those things imply he's from in there, there's nothing that implies that the beldam came from outside either. So when it comes to the beldam and the cat, they are both manifestations and products born from the other world, not products of the other world like everything else is. So and on top of that, they are on different spectrums of abilities. One is on about love and care, and the other one is about hate and taking that love for abuse. However, they both exist in the same world, so they're at constant odds with each other. And she's always trying to keep him out, but she can't because he's naturally given that he has that domain. It's his place. She can't get rid of him because that place is part of him, and he's a part of it. Just the same, he can't just kick her out or get rid of her because she's a part of that place too. So they're constantly at odds, going back at each other because one has a more special power than the other, you could say, and the other one is trying to use abuse of power to try and attain what the other has, which is being able to be alive, right? They have different ways of being alive, but they both revolve around love. Okay, so now we gotta explain. All right, now we're gonna mention a few themes and elements in the story, as well as keys, elements and themes in the story, so that we can understand the story, and then we're gonna explain the story, right? Okay, so in Coraline, right, some of the main themes and things we have to keep in mind. For example, it's heavily based on emotions, specifically specifically mentioning feeling neglect or isolated and feeling unheard. These are feelings that Coraline is going through in the movie, right? That's something that we have to keep in mind. And then we also have here spirituality, right? We have spirituality based on the soul and its existence and its effect on the world, and also the love that comes from it and how that affects, the other world and the world around us, right? So we have those two things, and then we also have another theme, which is not as obviously seen, but another theme is time itself. Time. Okay, so emotions, time, and spirit. Okay, emotions, time, and spirit. Those are three things that we have to keep in mind, and with that, we need one special key from the movie, which is spirals. Okay, and we're gonna explain and get into that moving forward. All right, now we pretty much have everything set, and now we just have. Oh yeah, and for the last thing, the setting. When it comes to the movie, we have three settings, not one, not two, but three. Okay, the time, place, and things like that. We have the real world, we have the other world, and we have Coraline's world. Okay, so now everything is set. We have all the information, and now it's time for us to begin the explanation of the story itself, right? Okay, so let's get into it. Give me a second, I gotta take a breath. Okay. So let's start this explanation, right? Okay. So let's start this story off, right? We have three settings. We have the real world, we have the other world, and Coraline's world. All right? The real world that we're seeing take place when the movie starts, the actual reality of the movie. The other world, the world catered to and playing on Coraline's emotions. And then we also have the third world, which is Coraline's world, which is in her mind. How she perceives the world in her actual mind and spirit and body herself, okay? I know it's deep, just hear me. Okay, we're gonna get into it, right? So that's 3 settings. How she sees the world, the other world, and the actual world itself that exists. All right, now let's begin the story. We start off the story, right? And Coraline shows up to the Pink Palace, right? She shows up, and bottom line is she's basically isolated and alone, right? She's feeling like she has no friend. I mean, obviously, she has no friends. She has nobody to speak to. Her parents aren't really talking to her, and it's not, as far as things to explore, there's just the grounds around her, and there's not like there's a lot of things to do. So she's just going around looking for a well. The point of the matter I'm getting with here is that in the beginning of the story, right, spiritually, Coraline, in terms of spirit, right, and in spirit there's a hierarchy, right? There's levels to where you're at in spirit and development. The more you develop in spirit, the higher you go up on like a pole, right? On the higher tiers of spirit is love, joy, happiness, freedom, and just joy, ecstasy and love and all that. At the bottom is sadness, depression, loneliness, isolation, fear, death, things like that, right? So as far as Coraline goes, the person, right, and in her head, she's low on the tier, right? She's low on the tier of spirit. And what that means is how people typically experience life is slow, dull, and dreadful. All right, so just keep these things in mind, right? So as Coraline is going around exploring the grounds after she shows up, she ends up at the well, right? Throughout all this, we see that clouds are present throughout all this, and it's clear as day, right? Very not vibrant, but it's clear. It's very well shown. Coraline goes ahead, tries asking the cat about the well. She tries to find it. YB shows up. We know the deal. He speaks to her, shows her the well, and we fast forward a little bit in the story, right? Fast forwarding to the story, we're gonna Coraline speaks about having almost died in the well. The mother tells her she doesn't have time for her, and Coraline is walking around with the doll trying to find herself. It comes to the end of the night, right? And as she's sleeping, she wakes up due to the mice making noise. As she's getting up and leaving the room, we see that in the windows of the house itself, the clouds outside are moving in spirals, right? So these are indicators that she's in the real world, not the other world, right? So she goes ahead and she makes it to the other world, and she's exploring it. And the whole time while she's there, there's not a single cloud present, right? Because like I mentioned, she's not up in the clouds. She's always down on the ground or fixated on something. So she's never really up in the air. She's always having her sight and eyes being controlled and manipulated. So wherever she's going to be seeing something, she's going to be being manipulated. So throughout the entire situation that she's going through all these things, she's having fun, figuring things out that's going on in the other world and how it works. There's no clouds going on, but to her that it's as normal as the other world, right? So let's keep it going, right? As Coraline is going through the experiences of the other world and seeing the real world, she in herself, right, internally, right, what she's seeing in the other world, she thinks matters to her, right? Keep in mind, this is like a foreshadowing, right? So she thinks these things matter because she's having so much fun with it, and she's like in love with it, or at least she thinks that she's in love with it, right? Love being one of the key elements in this movie, right? So she thinks that she loves it, so she's on this fake high going around in the other world. Now, as this is also going on, she's developing spiritually, right? So she's starting to be tested internally whether or not she realizes it or not. Give me 1 second. Also, keep in mind that these worlds or events that she's going through, like, the downstairs theater, the upstairs mouse circus, the garden, these are all powered by the spirit of and love of the other children. So this isn't really of the other mother. You feel what I'm saying? This isn't entirely of her doing or of a product of her being. So, you know, fast forward, Coraline, I don't say that. I'm trying to move this story along because it's a long one. Coraline gets confronted by the other mother, right? She gets confronted by the other mother that if she would like to stay, she has to sew the buttons to her eyes. Once this happens, right, Coraline's whole tune changes. How she thinks and behaves and feels completely changes and is different, right? So she decides that she wants to leave. So she tries to leave. But in the middle of trying that, she figures out, you know, she can't do that. She's stuck in a place basically until the other mother lets her out. While she was trying to leave, the other mother takes her and throws her into the other room where she meets the ghost children. The ghost children specifically are in a dark, gloomy room and they're pale and white. Okay? So as far as the other world goes with the other children, they are not out and about. Okay? All of their color has been, and life is drained from them and put to make up these places around what is essentially this little world of the other world. The other world. I'm getting tongue-tied for a second. Alright? So if they were free, they would be as colorful as everybody else. And if they weren't trapped, they would be in full spirit form. So notice this part that's about to come up, right? After they give Coraline the indication that after she gets out, that she could try and find her eyes and set them free, and there's a possibility of that. YB saves her and takes her, right? He takes her and brings her to escape, and before he's able, while she's escaping, she asks why that he should go with her. Why doesn't he come with her? That she's urging him to come. He takes off his hand, right? He takes off his hand and he blows on it, and his hand is sand. This has to do with his life force and his time limit. Okay? It has to relate to the sands of time, which we're going to get into in a moment, in a little bit. Coraline gets back to the other side, safe and sound. And this is a huge part that happens in the movie. Spiritually, right? Coraline's on the other side. She doesn't have her parents, and she starts feeling depressed and sad, right? Because she is now missing the thing or things that mattered most to her, right? Which was her parents. So now, instead of what mattered to her before, which was all these gifts and toys and shows and things like that, now she's noticing that her parents are all that matters, and that her love for her parents is what's true. And we can also see that highlighted as when she was coming through the tunnel, you can see that the tunnel was no longer blue. It was dark. It was grimy. That's because that the love that she had that was going on changed tune and changed. So that had an effect on the world around her, which was the other world. So now the other world had less love in it. So now the portal itself was becoming dark and dungy, similar to like how Coraline was feeling with the lack of love, right? So Coraline's on the other side and she doesn't have her parents and she's feeling bad. Now realizing what truly matters to her, spiritually, right? Spiritually, Coraline is growing and ascending the spirit pole of, the totem pole of spirit, basically. She's ascending levels. The thing about this is, right, as you ascend levels, your spirit increases in power and speed, right? And that affects how you see the world, and then in turn it affects the world around you itself because of how you behave and act and reflect upon the world. So now, how she feels inside is affecting the world outside. That's why you saw in the tunnel, it was dark and gloomy. Because her mind, the love, is affecting the world around her. Most specifically the other world, and now it's affecting the real world. And affecting her in the real world, showing her how what matters to her is love, and why it matters. Okay? All right. So, why does this matter? I know this is a whole thing. All right, hear me out, right? Because this is a big part. Right? As you ascend in spirit, right? Your mind increases in speed, which causes time around you to move faster, because you're not staying focused on it anymore. You're focused specifically on goals and what you love, not the things that doesn't really matter, which are things you're not paying attention to, which is the things around you and time. That's why when they say when you're having fun, time flies. When you're depressed, time drags on. Like when you're sitting in a jail cell, or okay, if you're not sitting, you've never been to jail, I guess. Sitting in a classroom with attention and things like that. Time drags out and goes slowly. So what does this have to do with Coraline itself, right? Spirit increasing with time increasing. Time moves in a clockwise direction. Okay, well, actually, you're in the opposite side of me, so it'd be like this, right? So for you, it's going clockwise. This is how the hands of a clock move. So as time ticks and spins, everything is moving in a rotation, along with the same factors. As the day goes on, the earth is what? Spinning in a rotation. Okay? So time is related to rotation, and time is related to emotion. So a person's emotion through their spirit manipulates time and thus the world around them, right? Okay, so now we're gonna skip forward a bit through into the movie, right? So Coraline figures out her parents are gone. She's gonna go back to save them. She decides that she's gonna play a game with the other mother. She has to find the eyes. Boom. Right? 1 second. Truck's passing by. So Coraline is looking for the eyes. She's spiritually higher up. So her mind is up there. Time is moving in a different speed. And what's more, she's filled with love. Right? So she has a bunch of love inside her. And she's trying to help save the kids and her parents. So here's the kicker, right? So here's the kicker. When the spirit increases in power due to love, it increases in speed. When this happens in the natural real world, the spirit causes a call. Basically, it's a call from God, where it summons events in order to cause the world around you to match yourself. So the inside matches the outside. So if you're increasing speed and spirit inside, that's gonna project outside and manipulate time. Spiral, moving the clock, right? When that happens, spirit itself sends events such as tornadoes, right? Tornadoes spin in a spiral. Why does that matter, right? Because your spirit is free like time. It's like the air, right? I can move my hand through the air, but I can't move it through this book, right? So if my spirit increases very fast, my mind then causes the time around me to move very fast. And that in turn brings tornadoes to then cause the tornadoes to come to rip up the land to make it like time. Because how does the land or the floor this become like time? You send in a tornado which rips up the material and turns it into and breaks it up into a fine dust and sand. So now with the sand and dust particles spread out, it's as if there's nothing there. So now the ground being ripped apart becomes free like the air, like time. So now the ground is like the air. Because as above, so below. So now the below is like above. So instead of having ground, the ground is actually like the sky. So now they're the same. Okay? So, in Coraline, right, after she finds the 3 ghost children, the ghost children's existence was based on love. Once she took the eyes, you saw the button move in front of the moon and the world began to disintegrate. Because when she removed the eyes itself, she removed love. And since love is all that matters, there is no material for the world to be based upon or be held together. So because there's no more love holding it together, the world began to disintegrate and fall apart. And as it's doing so, it's ripping up in spirals like a tornado would. Like the ground is ripping up, but if you can see the shrubs and things like that in the sky, it's ripping up in spirals and in a pattern like a tornado does. And also related to the spirit itself. Okay? So she grabs the eyes and she runs inside. But who's the only other person with her there that is still alive? The cat itself, right? And the cat isn't dying or disintegrating. But when she approaches the beldam is. You see that the beldam is barely being held together. She has cracks in her face and she's breaking up. And if you look carefully at her face and her arms that are cracked, they are the same patterns you see that are seen in the sky and the world as it's being ripped up apart and Coraline is running back inside. Because as the world is dying, she is dying. Because if there's no love in the world, there's nothing left, there's nothing available to hold her together. The reason why she's still held up together at that moment is only because she has her parents still in the globe. So she only has like a very little bit of power left and she's running out of time. Right? So she's running out of time. Once she encounters Coraline and Coraline confronts her about where her parents are, you know, Coraline does the trickery, right? She does the trickery and tells her she's behind the door and she throws the cat at her. When she throws the cat at the other mother loses her sight, so she begins to break down the room itself. The cat escapes and the room breaks down. There is nothing at all else present in the other world. Not even the well. Keep that in mind. There is nothing else present because there's nothing left available to make something out of. All the material, the things that mattered, that is material to build upon, is now with Coraline herself. That's why when Coraline goes up into the door and begins to shut it, when she goes up to the door and she shuts it, the other mother begins screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, I'll die here without you." Because once Coraline closed that door and took the love with her, there was nothing left holding the other mother together, which means the other mother would then turn into dust and sand, the same thing that she puts into the doll to send out to watch Coraline and make these other things, right? So Coraline makes it out and you hear banging on the door, bop, 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 all the way until it reaches Coraline's side and Coraline shuts it. Keep in mind that when Coraline shut the first door, she locked it. And then when she got to the other side, she locked it. That's 2 doors, right? So keep this in mind, because we're going to get to that in a little bit. Coraline goes ahead and she goes to free the other children. And the other children show up. They're in the golden form. They have a spiral and there's the starry night around them with the clouds. So we know that she's on the outside, the real world. And we know for a fact that the ghost children are free because they have the spiral, and there's clouds around them with a spiral. And they're golden now. They're not ghosts. They're spirit now. Of spirit. Sorry. They're of spirit, right? And they warn her that she has to get rid of the key. And she goes ahead, you know, she wakes up and she decides, okay, I gotta get rid of the key. And she lets the cat know. The cat makes a face, and then he tries to stop her. After she moves him to the side, he just has a face like, and she goes off and does her thing, right? Just keep that in mind. She goes ahead and she goes to the well, and she's about to throw in the key into the well. When the hand comes and approaches her, it jumps and grabs the key and starts bringing it towards the door. If the portal was, if the well was a portal to the other world, why wouldn't the other mother have had her throw it down the well? It would have literally fell into her lap. However, there is no well on the other side in the other world. That we already know that because she went where it was supposed to be and it wasn't there. Right? So people might be thinking, okay, well, if the key's down there, couldn't the other mother make her way back out? No, she couldn't. Because when Coraline escaped the other world, she locked the first door on the other side of the other mother, and then she locked the second door on the other side. So those are two doors, both doors locked on the opposite side of the other mother. So even if the key somehow went down into the well and the well was a portal to the other side, the other mother couldn't unlock it because she needs to be on the outside to unlock it. She can't unlock it from the inside. She can only lock it from the outside. And there's only one key. And she doesn't have it. And even if she did have it, she would need somebody else, if anything, to unlock it. And there's nobody left. And she's out of time. And she has no more love. So she doesn't matter. And she disintegrates into sand. Sand and dust, like dust in an hourglass. Dust to dust, sand to time. And we can see at the end, after they dump the hand with the key in the well, what do we see? We see clouds open. We see clouds in the shape of hands open up and reveal the moon. And that indicates to us that she's in the real world and the other mother got defeated. Now, here's the kicker to the end, right? Why is it that the cat at the end disappears, right? Coraline, defeats the hand, and she decides she's gonna speak with YB's grandma tomorrow. She's in the garden party, and they're having a good time, and they speak to each other. Keep in mind, YB's there with his grandma, so we know she's real and alive. So she's in the real world. We see clouds present, real world. And then we zoom out and we see the front of the pink palace. The cat is sitting on the post of the pink palace, right? The cat gets up, he walks behind it, and he disappears. People think that he's disappearing possibly to the other world. And if that's the case, then the other world must still exist. But that is not the case at all. When Coraline shut the door and removed the eyes, she removed the last material needed to keep the world existing, that other world existing. So when she shut the door and took the eyes, she not only sentenced the other mother to death, she also started the dying process for the cat. That's why when she said, I gotta get rid of the key, I gotta put this somewhere that she can't find it, and she made a face, the cat made a face too. And he tried to stop her, and she moved him out the way, because he knew if she got rid of the key, then there's absolutely nothing that will allow him to just be having freedom in and out, or anything else to come in and out. That was it. That was the portal. That was his whim. He can go whatever he wants inside the world, but the in and out is through the portal. And what's more, nothing else can go in, so nothing else can have love inside of it. So without any material left, and without anybody in danger, the cat had now served his purpose. And because the cat served his purpose, the cat no longer mattered. So when you see the cat go behind the post, and you see the last bit of his tail, it's not just his tail end. It is his tail end. The end of his tail. And the end of Coraline. And he died along with the other world. The difference is he was willing to accept moving on and whatever happens afterwards. He wasn't willing to sacrifice other things to keep himself alive like the other mother. So when he accepted saving Coraline, he accepted his own death by choice and at peace. And that's why at the end, when you see his tail disappear, you hear the door shut. You hear a door shut. Because that's the same door shutting sound that you hear when the other mother is banging on the shut door and Coraline shuts the door in front of her and locks it. Boom. And as a double meaning, when that door shuts, it's also the same sound as when you close a book. When you read a big book and you close it, boom. And that's the story of Coraline. So the cat didn't disappear to the world. He disappeared, as in he passed away, he died, and he died along with the other mother. So the story is done. The story is told. There is not going to be a sequel, and there's not going to be a need for a sequel. And if there would be a sequel, it couldn't be related to this. Because the other world is gone, the other mother is gone, and now the cat himself is gone. Oh, okay, that was so much to say and talk through. I hope that made sense to everybody. Oh, and also as a cute thing I noticed too, at the end of the movie, when you see the garden party, you notice that there's a white balloon. If you take a look at the balloon, it's white, and then there's a straight, the string that holds it is straight with a spiral. This is a symbolism of what they would call like the crown chakra, or like the highest piece part in spirituality. There's like a light above your head, and then there's a column and a spiral, something like that. That is what that is in representation of. So when you see the white balloon, it is a representation of Coraline's developed spirituality and purity, now understanding what matters to her, which is love. Alright guys, I hope that made sense. I hope you guys loved it. Bonus information, I gotta take this off for a second, yo. Because hear me out. The only reason why I was able to comprehend this and put this together was because of God himself. Alright? God himself broke it down and explained it to me. And the reason why he did it is because he wanted to hold the answer as long as of course he can hold it as long as he wants. The point is, he held the answer so that for when the answer was revealed, the credit would go to him, because a lot of you guys are spiritual and you do watch the movie, and whether you guys notice or not, that's why you guys keep watching it over and over again, and every time you watch it you feel good. This is a spiritual thing going on with you guys, and that love, the thing that matters, is what's put into the movie and why the movie is so good, because there's so much love and attention put into it. So God wants you guys to realize that he made the movie for us. And a lot of you guys are Coraline yourselves in your own lives, and you guys think that the world around you is very depressing and isolating, and you're chasing a bunch of things that you think that you'll love and care about, but it's really fake, like in the other world. And a lot of people are looking at God like he's the other mother, and he's bad, but he's not. He's a very loving thing. And a lot of people are getting in a time in this and in their lives where they're becoming forced into a place, like when Coraline is forced inside the house when the world is falling apart. They're being forced into a place and center so that in this place they can encounter God and they can get all the things that they need and want to fulfill them, which is through him and by him. And he can give you everything that you want. You just need to be willing to open yourself up to him. He made this movie specifically for us. He explained the movie to me. Nobody else has explained this, okay? Nobody else has come close. Nobody has explained it to this level of degree. That's because this is God giving it, okay? The proof is in the pudding. Alright? So just give him a chance. And at the very least say thank you, because this movie, we've been on this journey. A lot of us have been on this journey since this movie came out. Okay, it's been a long time we've been dissecting this movie, and now we know the answer. Did Coraline get out of the other world? Yes. How and why? Because of the 3 markers and the explanation I gave on the movie. And most of all, because of love. Love. Okay, guys? I love you guys. I hope this was worth the watch. If you watched to the end, God bless you. And God bless Coraline, because this is after the Passion of the Christ. Because without it, we wouldn't have this movie. This is my favorite movie this movie goes so deep, and for a movie that's supposed to be catered towards children, and for stop motion, I don't think anything comes close after, outside of the Passion of the Christ, which is number 1. This movie. God bless us. God bless you guys. Peace.